So in our lives, whether you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, whether you're running, some sort of, department, or whether it's just your life, we're all faced with these little decisions that can determine the entire trajectory and outcome of our lives, where we're going. And as I reflect on some of those decisions, they're little decisions that we don't realize are going to play such a massive part in where we're going. And I think of one of the decisions that one of our co-founders and partners, Mitch, had to make a couple years ago that was a massive decision. We didn't know it was so massive at the time, but he had a lot of different opportunities, and he had an opportunity, to be a co-founder and work with us at Fundwise. And had he not made that decision, to come work with us, like, our company would not exist. It was such a massive decision, and Tim Ferriss talks about some decisions that really are the big dominoes. Like, you can do a lot of things that you think are important, but they're not that important. But if you can focus on the one thing, the one big domino, that if you knock that domino down, everything else falls into place, then that's super important. So for us at that point 2 years ago, it really was having Mitch come on and run our sales and fuel the business and close deals and build out that sales process. And so having him come on was a major domino. We didn't know it at the time. And so my question to him was, well, how did you make that decision? What were the factors that led you to make a decision which you thought was a good one at the time and turns out to be a 7 figures decision in terms of sales and employees and building an organization that helps a lot of clients across the country? And as I talked to him about it, he talked about one word that kept coming up over and over, and that word was trust. And so number one, you had to trust yourself to make that decision and kind of go with your gut, weigh your pros and cons, and trust yourself to make the decision. The second thing he talked about is you have to have a trust with the people that you're working with. If you don't have that trust in the people that you're working with, whether it's your partners, whether it's your team, it could be major marketing partners that you have, strategic partners, if you don't have that trust with them, then it's tough to make that decision. And so as he was making that decision, that's what it came down to, where he had trust in the partners, in us, that he was going to work with and build something, and then trust in himself to make that right decision. And then I think the third thing that you look at it when you're making these big decisions is you have to know when to pivot, right? And so if your product needs to be tweaked, for example, last year, the way we fulfill our funding product, we needed to make some important tweaks and changes to it. And so when you're making big, massive changes, kind of the process of making that decision is you start out with a test, right? You test your decision, you test your theory, and if it works and if the market accepts it, then you can pivot the entire business that way. You don't want to do it all at once. But so those were kind of the 3 keys to making really big 7-figure decisions, right? Trusting in yourself to make the right decision, trusting in others, or make sure you're working with the right team of people and partners that you trust. And number 3, when you have to change the directions, which sometimes you have to do on a daily, weekly basis to get your company going the right direction, that you test out those changes, those pivots, before you go ahead and make the big change. And when you do that, again, your odds for success of making the right decision go up significantly. So make great decisions, make 7-figure decisions, and you can do it in your personal life too, right? Make sure you trust the people that you're working with in your personal life. And one other thing that came up is, make sure that you stay focused, that you have your goals, and make sure that the decisions that you're making that you think are big are in line with the goals that you have and where you want to go, right? Start with kind of the end in mind before you make those big decisions, and you'll be obviously a lot more successful.